A few days ago, I came across an old picture of my cat, Murdoch. It's one of my favorite pictures of him. He's curled up in a little ball next to my hip, using my arm as a pillow. His back is towards the room. His face is turned towards me, and he's completely asleep. Well, as asleep as cats really ever are. At first glance, it's just a cute picture, but every time I see it, I'm reminded of something much bigger. You see, cat owners know something interesting. Cats don't sleep like that with just anyone. When a cat curls up next to you with its back exposed to the room, it's doing something remarkable. It's saying, I trust you to watch my back while I rest. For an animal that's naturally alert, naturally cautious, that's a big deal. It's completely vulnerable. And every time I look at that picture, I wonder, when was the last time I trusted another human being that much? Not enough to, take a nap next to them. That could get awkward. But enough to truly let my guard down. Because if we're honest, most of us spend our entire lives wearing armor. We wear armor at work. We wear armor on social media. Sometimes we even wear armor around our closest friends. We filter our words. We rehearse our responses. We hide the parts of ourselves we're afraid won't be accepted. We're constantly asking ourselves questions like, will they think less of me? Should I tell them that? Maybe I should keep that part to myself. And while some of that is very healthy, living with armor on all the time is exhausting. I've realized there are very few people in my life where I can take all of the armor off around them. For me, my parents are among those people. My best friend is one of those people. And oddly enough, my cat was one of those too. He never judged me. He never interrupted. He was an exceptional secret keeper. Not once in his entire life did he tell anyone something I had shared with him. Now, most relationships don't begin that way, and Murdoch's certainly didn't either. For the first year, he chose me. He'd stay at the foot of my bed, but he would move every time I moved near him. He was gone every single time. Because trust doesn't appear overnight. It accumulates. One safe interaction at a time, one kept promise, one moment of consistency after another. Eventually, he stopped running. Then he'd sit beside me, then he'd curl up against me, and then one day, he fell asleep. Completely defenseless. And that's when I knew something had changed. Not because I had demanded his trust, but because it had been earned. I think people work an awful lot the same way. Trust isn't built with grand speeches. It's built through repeated evidence, showing up, keeping confidence, being consistent, choosing kindness when someone is vulnerable, over and over and over again. Here's what's interesting. I've learned vulnerability isn't all or nothing. We often hear people say, just be vulnerable. That's much easier said than done. I found that most of us have different layers. Maybe there are people with whom you can share 95% of your life. But there's another 5% that almost nobody sees. Or maybe you're the opposite. Maybe you keep 75% protected, but there's that one small corner of your heart that only a handful of people have ever been allowed to enter. And that's okay too. Trust doesn't have to happen all at once. Sometimes healing begins by lowering one piece of the armor instead of taking off the entire suit. What matters is that somewhere, with someone, you aren't carrying it all alone. Because here's the beautiful responsibility that comes with trust. When someone finally lets you see behind their armor, don't treat it casually. That person has likely spent years deciding whether you're safe or not. They've watched how you've responded. They've noticed whether you gossip, whether you judge, whether you disappear when life gets hard. If they've handed you a fragile piece of their soul, treat it like the priceless gift it is. Protect it, honor it, because trust, once broken, is incredibly difficult to rebuild. So today, I'd like to leave you with two questions. First, who are the people with whom you can let your guard down, even just a little? And second, whose armor have you been trusted to hold? Because every one of us needs a place where we don't have to perform, where we don't have to pretend, where we don't have to earn love. A place where we can simply rest, just like a little cat curled up against someone he knows will watch his back. May we all have someone like that. And just as important, may we all become someone like that for someone else.